Hey everybody, we're back with another puzzle video today, and I think I may have found my absolute favorite chess puzzle composer by the name of Mario Matous. Now, in today's video, we're going to solve another one of his genius endgame puzzles. Let's dive right into this one. The puzzle we're going to take a look at today is a bit of a short one because white can surprisingly achieve checkmate in only 7 moves. Well, 14 if you count black's as well. But what's so interesting about this one, much like the last Matous puzzle we covered, is that Stockfish did not see the win until move number 5, meaning that Stockfish was convinced that this game was going to end in a draw. So, if you want to challenge yourself and see if you're smarter than Stockfish, go ahead and pause the video, take a look at the board in front of you, and let me know if you can solve it by yourself. But if not, let's move forward. We could see right away that the king is extremely exposed, and the black queen can do some serious harm in this position. Now at first glance, we see that queen to a4 forks the king and the rook, but luckily it's white's turn to play here, and the black king is relatively closer to the corner of the board. The first move is pretty self-explanatory. White starts with knight to f3, check. Black is already in a little bit of trouble here. He can't escape on g2 because of this powerful discovery check bishop takes on c5, and this discovery check is deadly, not because it's going to capture the queen, but because of the imminent checkmate in one move. King to f1 and rook to f2 is checkmate. The same idea applies if the king moves to h3 as well, but the checkmate is going to be in 7 moves here. Knight to g5 check, and wherever the king moves on the second file, white is going to have the same discovery check with bishop takes on c5. The only move here for black is to play king to h1, and here the true beauty of this puzzle really begins. If the first move was easy to spot for you, I bet you won't be able to find the next one. Once again, I'll invite you to pause the video and see if you can. Tell me in the comments if you did manage to find it. So the key thing here is the black king's position on h1. With the king on that particular square, white can create multiple checkmate threats, and black couldn't defend himself indefinitely. So, what checkmate threat can white create in this position? Now I'm pretty sure that you could see that if the white bishop weren't in the rook's way, white could deliver the checkmate in the next move. And this is the right idea, but here's the challenging part. Where do we move that bishop? If you were thinking bishop takes g5, unfortunately, you just drew the game, because the black queen is going to fork the king and the rook with a4, check. White's only defense is knight to d4, stopping the check while also guarding the rook. But here, black has one brilliant defense. Can you spot it? We all love a good queen sacrifice, am I right? And this is what black would have to do next. Queen takes knight on d4, and after white's bishop recaptures, the game is going to end in a stalemate. So, bishop to e3 is more or less the same idea and move order. Now we observe what a menace that queen fork on a4 is, and the only way to stop it while also opening the rook's path for a checkmate is bishop to d4. Now it's a beautiful move, sacrificing the bishop for a checkmate. So black is pretty smart. He's aware of that threat, so he's going to defend against it. Now a quick note here, black has trouble dealing with both the one-move checkmate with rook to h2 and c1, which is a checkmate in 3 moves. So, black couldn't play queen on h7, for example. Right, so the only defense for black is by checking the white king. Now in this position, black has 3 available checks, b7, c7, and f7. Another critical reason why bishop to d4 was the only winning move in that position is that if the black queen decided to check on either b8 or c7, we can block that check with the bishop. And after that move, white's material advantage will decide the game in his favor. Which means black's only real defense that is still going to give him a chance of winning is queen to f7. Now here, white has to be very careful and escape the check in the right way. And the right way of defending this doesn't look so nice. He can't go to g3 because of g6, the queen yet again forking the rook and the king. So, he's got to move to e3, giving up that bishop with a check. Told you it wasn't pretty. But white did that with a purpose because after the pawn takes the bishop, white has this safe refuge behind his knight's back. And believe me when I say that knight is going to prove to be a true hero in this position in the next coming moves. So next up, black is going to play queen to f4, threatening a check on e3. Now you can't defend here with the rook on e2 because it's a mistake that's instantly going to draw the game. In this position, black would be more than happy with a draw, and he's going to achieve it by moving his queen to e3, check. Rook is then forced to take, and black takes back, leaving white alone with his knight, and you can't deliver a checkmate using just your horsey. So, how do we defend here as white? You ever heard of that phrase, the best defense is a good offense? Well, it applies perfectly here. Again, we can observe that the black king is restrained on that h1 square with no available moves. So if white manages to check it with the rook, it would be a checkmate. But the rook can't check it on c1 because the queen guards that square. Now I'm going to let you pause the video and see if you can tell me exactly where we should be moving that rook. I'll give you a little hint. The second rank is no good. Now rook a2 or b2 is going to be met with queen to c1, and black is going to manage to save the game for himself here. Now as you saw, the rook only has two available squares, c6 and c8, because the black queen guards c7. So if you said rook to c8, unfortunately that's not the move, because black can check the king on e3, and after the king moves to g3, black can defend against checkmate with queen to h6, guarding both h8 and c1 over here. Now you might be wondering, why did black decide to check first, and only after that move to h6? Well, that's because it's the only move that can really save the game for black. If he moves directly to h6, white is going to have a forced checkmate with rook to a8. Black's queen can't check white's king because the knight guards both checking squares. So no matter what black does, the mate is inevitable. If he tries to defend with queen to c1, then rook to h8 is checkmate. But what's the reason for giving a check first and forcing the king to g3? It's because now, after rook to a8, black has multiple ways of checking the king, and white's pieces are surely going to fall. Now, if you thought rook to c6, well, congratulations, that actually is the correct move. But why is this the winning move, and why is it so different from a8? The black queen can still give a check on e3, but in this case, black's queen can no longer go to h6 because that square is covered by white's rook. Now, we can observe how white's rook can deliver the checkmate on either h6 or c1, but black is defending both of those squares, so it's pretty obvious what white's plan is going to be after rook to c6, right? Moving the rook to a different square that's going to threaten the same things, checkmating either on the first rank or on the h-file, and sooner or later, black is no longer going to be able to hold that position. Now, can you see why I said that our knight in this position is going to end up being a real hero for us? Black can't give us any checks. He protects both d2 and h4. So, it's black's move now, and here he's kind of in a Zugzwang position. He can't move his queen anywhere on that c1 to h6 diagonal, so the only move left is pawn to d3. Now this is the part that kind of blew my mind here. Which square would the rook go to? Surprisingly, the rook has to move to c8. Now, we move the rook to c8, and in this position, black can honestly just resign, because checkmate is completely unstoppable. The only way to prolong the game is to sacrifice the queen by taking the knight on f3. But why are we moving the rook now? Could that pawn move make all the difference? Yeah, it could, because black doesn't have this e3 check any longer. And even if he would try the same defense with queen to h6, white has this so simple yet so elegant move, rook to b8. Now threatening checkmate on b1 and on h8, and black's queen cannot defend both those squares at once. Rook to b8 ends up being the only move that works here, because if white would have played, let's say, rook to a8, for example, this would have completely thrown the game for white. Rook to b8 was the only move that worked because it would control the b6 square, cutting off all the black queen's possible check squares. Now, with that square available, queen to b6, check, king to g3, queen to c7, check, king to f2, queen to c5, check, king to g3, queen to d6, and now we can see how white has lost control of the match completely. But white actually didn't make that blunder and instead played the winning move, rook to b8. Now, no matter what black moves, the rook is going to come to one of those two checkmating squares. So let's say queen moves to c1, rook to h8, check. Queen to h6, rook takes queen, there's your checkmate. I hope you guys enjoyed yet another mind-boggling puzzle by Mario Matos. I really like this one because it shows the importance of timing and positioning. So I'll play the puzzle once again, showing only the correct moves, so that you can see the evaluation bar in real time, and see how Stockfish only sees the winning sequence after move 5. See you in the next one.